Welcome back, guys. My name's Gareth. This is Tech Check. Today is all about your brand new gaming PC. Bright, shiny, RGB everywhere. Well, today I'm going to walk you through, after you press that power button and hopefully hit the BIOS screen, what do you do in order to get Windows installed so you can start playing some games? Stick with me. I'll show you exactly how to do it. So first things first, guys, all we've got to do is turn that power switch on. Let's press the power button. Oh, that's a good sign. All the RGB's on, which is fantastic. So we'll wait for this and hopefully we'll hit a splash screen or a message about FPTM or something like that, or the BIOS, if I turn the monitor on. We've got power. Let's see if it posts. Whee, there we go. Straight through to the BIOS. Now that is a fantastic screen to see, guys. Okay. In here, the first mistake that I see a lot of people do is they go ahead and they load on up here where it says memory, they load on XMP before they've installed Windows. In order to give yourself the best stability, don't do that. Leave everything in here all alone. By all means, you can check to make sure that you've got your CPU, you can check, make sure that you've got all of your RAM installed, and you can check to see if you've got your SSDs or NVMEs present, okay? Once you've done that, the first thing that you want to do is head over to Windows, decide on whether you want to install Windows 10, Windows 11. You want to grab yourself a little USB stick. Now, the most important thing with this is it wants to be more than 8 gigabytes and it needs to be formatted as FAT32. That way you'll give yourself 10 times less problems. If there's anything on it, delete it before you go ahead and install Windows on this. All you've got to do, I'll leave a link in the description, click on the link, follow it, choose which one you want, download it to your desktop or PC, and then open it up and save it to this USB stick. Once you've done that, you can take your USB stick, shove it in the USB port on your computer. I always like to use a USB 3, which is a blue one. All we can do then is press F10 and enter. What that's going to do now is it's going to leave the BIOS, attempt to boot through to Windows, which we don't have installed. But what we have got is a boot device here with our Windows installation media on it. And with any luck, give it 10-15 seconds and you'll start to see a little swirly thing on your screen. And then that'll take us through to the Windows installation media. Way, there we go. Took a little bit longer than what I anticipated. But the first thing you're going to come up with, guys, is this screen here. So you're going to change your language dependent on what you speak, where you're located, etc., and then press next. We can go ahead and press install now. This will then present us with, do you have a key? Do you want to buy one? No, we don't. We don't need a key. You don't need to purchase a key. You don't need to buy an OEM Microsoft license. You can do all that afterwards. And again, I'll leave links for that down below. We click, I don't have a key. And the most important thing here, guys, is we've not connected to either Wi-Fi or LAN either. Now, you can do if you want, but then you're going to get a load of bloatware installed onto your computer and it's not worth it. So we're going to install Windows 10 Pro. We can click next. It now asks us to accept the terms and conditions. And what we're going to do next is go customs install. So this is the only drive that we have in our computer. It's 931 gig. It's actually 1 terabyte, but hey-ho. But we're going to select that and we're going to click next. Now, if you were reusing an old drive or something like that and you wanted to delete it, what you could do is select it and then press format, and then you could choose that drive as well. But click next. And what we're going to do now is going to copy all the files, install all the features, and then it will take us through to a Windows homepage. Hopefully. Just wait for this to go through the status bar you'll be absolutely fine. Now that's finished, you'll see that your computer will reboot, it will restart, and you'll get this message here, getting things ready for you. All that you've got to do is let that little Windows installation wizard walk you through the rest of the process until you hit the main Windows page. And then you may think, whee, time for gaming. Not quite yet. You'll see also there, guys, I've had a 990 Pro box from Samsung. So a massive shout out to Samsung and Matt at Quader for sending me out these drives. There's a reason why, because that's what's installed in this system. And over the last 5-6 years, I'm a massive fan of Samsung, primarily for two reasons. The first being reliability and the second being performance. Take this 990 Pro, 7,500 megabytes per second in terms of read speeds. Going to be amazing for anyone that wants a quick, fast, snappy system that's not only reliable, but performs fantastically well. If you're interested in picking up a new M.2, whether it be Gen 3, Gen 4 or Gen 5, I'll leave links down in the description as well. So now that we've reached this screen, we want to choose where we are located. I'm obviously in the UK. We want to choose our keyboard layout. What I like to do here now, guys, is skip the lot of this because you don't want it. So skip, and it's going to ask me, do I want to connect to the internet? No, I don't. So I want to continue with limited setup. I want to skip. And then we're going to put our name in. So we can put, I'm going to put my son's name in. And we're not putting a password in. And now we want to choose no on absolutely everything because we don't want to give access to our data. We don't want to share any information. We don't want them prying on us. We don't want them to see absolutely anything at all. So click no, 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 no. Right, do we want to install Katana? No, we don't. And now it says hi, and it's going to take us through to Windows. Absolute banging system this as well, guys. Might not have a white GPU in it, but it's a bit more of a black and white build. RTX 4070 Ti Super, again from Matt at Quader and Zotac. Thank you for sending this out for review. If you're interested in this card, amazing at 1440p, guys. Probably the best card at 1440p. 16 gigs worth of VRAM, going to come in absolutely perfectly, especially not only now, but for future proofing for the next 2 or 3 years, especially then AAA games as well. Now you've got through to this screen and you're thinking, woohoo, I'm there, I'm done. Not yet. There's quite a few things in terms of optimizations that we need to do. And then we need to go back into the BIOS to make the most out of the hardware that we've got. So we can put maybe later here. And this is the point where we want to go ahead and connect either our Wi-Fi or our LAN cable. So we can go ahead, attach our LAN cable. We should see a thing pop up down here. We can click yes. There we go. And now we're going to have access to the internet. But before we do that, there's a few things that we want to do. We can go down to the Windows button. We can right click and we can go to settings. We can go to Windows and update. We want to click on check for updates because if you've not downloaded the latest Windows, you need to make sure that you've got all of the updates. Click on checking for updates and it's going to give us a plethora of upgrades that we need to do or updates that we need to do, and we're going to wait for those to install. And through this process, guys, you're going to have to probably install and restart a couple of times. Once you've done that, I'll be back very shortly. So now that quite a few of them have actually downloaded and installed, we need to restart. Let the PC restart and then let it reload back into Windows, where it will continue installing the rest of those. In order to get back to the screen, we just need to go down to the Windows, right click, settings, click back on Windows and updates. And as you can see here, it's going back into installing the ones that didn't manage to get installed. And we're currently on 20% left on this particular one. Whilst that's actually finishing downloading, we'll click on the Internet Explorer down the bottom. we'll go up to the top, and all we're going to do is type Google Chrome. Now you could use any extension that you want to use, whether it's Firefox, Chrome, so on and so forth. And what we're going to do is download Google Chrome. It will ask us where we want to download it, and it's already downloaded up here. We'll open it up, press yes, and then we should have downloaded Google Chrome and installed that in the next couple of seconds as well. That way we can get rid of that pesky Internet Explorer. Here we go. What we're going to do while we've got Chrome open is type in NVIDIA drivers. Now, what you would do if you've got an AMD card is you'd type in AMD Adrenalin, and you would then select your own AMD card. We've got a GeForce RTX card in, so we're going to do NVIDIA. So we can click on NVIDIA downloads, and all we're going to do is go 40 series, and then we've got a 4070 Ti Super, Windows 10, game ready driver, select, download. And that's going to give us our GPU drivers to get the best graphics and make sure that everything's up to date. Downloader is finished. We can press on that and open it up. Select yes. That's going to unpack our installation manager. Our NVIDIA graphics drivers are opening up. We're just going to download the NVIDIA driver itself. What I would advise is download GeForce Now, and that way whenever a new driver comes out, it keeps your actual GPU up to date. It just means that you'll have to sign up for it if you're not already a member. It is free, it just wants details, as everything does. So NVIDIA driver only, click next. We're going to go Express, click next. And what this is going to do, guys, is it's going to download the latest NVIDIA driver for your graphics card and go through that installation process. Really, really straightforward. Just let it carry on. You'll get a bit of a flicker on the screen. It might go blank, and then it'll come back on. And effectively, you've just downloaded all your latest drivers for your graphics card. There we go. That's it all going a bit weird, and then it all comes back on. NVIDIA has finished. So we can restart now or restart later. We're going to press restart later. We can close that down, and we're just going to take a quick look at the settings and where Windows is with regards to the updates. And that wants to actually restart now as well. So we can press restart now. We'll let it go through the same process yet again. It does feel a little bit like a ball ache when all you've done is spent the last 3, 4, 5, 6 hours building your own gaming PC, and it eventually turns on and you think, oh, this is amazing. When am I going to be gaming? And then you've got to go through. I would say if it's the first time that you've done it, it's going to take you probably 45 minutes to an hour to make sure that you've set everything up. If you know what you're doing, guys, it takes around half an hour. It's limited to the amount of speed that your hardware can handle, and also how fast everything uploads and installs. Right, now we're back on this screen. What I would advise you to do, guys, okay, is we've got our NVIDIA drivers. We've changed our Internet Explorer to Google. What we want to do is, if you've got multiple drives, you want to come into here and you want to go to disk management. That's going to open up and you'll be able to see this particular screen here. You'll see that we've only got one actual drive in our computer, but if you had 2 or 3 or 4, what you'd have to do is actually right click on the drive, and then you would select new media, okay? And effectively you assign a drive letter, call it whatever you want to call it, press OK, and it will look very much like all the rest of these ones up here. Until you do that, Windows doesn't know it can actually use it. So make sure that you do activate your drives. It might be showing in the BIOS, you might not see them in Windows. For optimum performance, we want to come into settings. We want to type into our settings, power, hit enter, choose a power plan. And what we want to do is click on show additional plans, click high performance to get the best out of your computer. A couple of other things, I like to click on apps, come into startup, And I like to turn off things like OneDrive or limit the amount of rubbish that starts up that you don't actually need when booting your computer, because that's the difference of it taking 10 seconds to boot up or taking 40 seconds to boot up and it feeling really laggy. The least amount of stuff that you can have starting up, the faster it will be. One other thing that I would say to you is you want to download your motherboard software to update your chipset drivers and make sure that your BIOS is up to date. Now, generally, if it's going to be a 7000 ready or a 5000 ready motherboard, they will have a BIOS that's going to be compatible with your CPUs. It doesn't mean that you've got the latest ones. The best way to do it is to go onto your motherboard's manufacturer's site, type in your make and model, and then you can download the latest chipset drivers and install them from there. In terms of the BIOS, it is a little bit nervous, guys. If it's the first time that you've done it, there's loads of videos on YouTube, walkthrough tutorials on how to do that. But there's two ways that you can mainly do it. Some allow you to do it through the boot options in your motherboard BIOS, and some require you to download the BIOS from the manufacturer's website, put it onto an actual flash drive, stick it in to your Easy Flash USB drive at the back, and then go through the BIOS and update it that way. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, but again, most important thing to note here is whatever you do, keep any kids, dogs, animals, mums, dads out the way. Make sure that that PC stays on at all times. It should take about 4 to 6 minutes, something like that. But whatever you do, don't turn the computer off until it's all reloaded and working again. You'll see down here, we've got our NVIDIA drivers. We'll double click that, open it up, and then we can agree and continue. That's going to open up our NVIDIA control panel. Once we've got that open, in order to maximize the performance, we can click on this top setting here. We can click on use my preference and slide that all the way over to actual performance. This bottom right hand corner down here, you can click apply. A couple of other things you want to do in here as well, guys, is you want to go to change resolution. So many times I see people spending thousands of pounds on computers. They've got a really nice 144, 240 hertz monitor, and by default it's still sat there at 60 hertz. You're not getting the FPS on screen that your computer's outputting. So you want to come into here, you want to select your resolution, you want to drop down your refresh rate and select the highest one possible. You then want to come down to the next section and you want to click on use NVIDIA settings. You can click on then use highest 32-bit, and where it says limited dynamic range, you can change that to full. Again, press apply down at the bottom. Your monitor will turn off and then it'll come back on again. Keep these settings yes. You want to go down to use or video settings, and you want to click on with NVIDIA settings, go across to advanced, and where it says limited, change that to full as well, and again press apply in the bottom right hand corner. The thing here, the methodology behind it is every time you change a setting, press apply, or else it won't remember it. The last one is going into managing your 3D settings. There's only a couple of settings in here that you really need to change. So come all the way down to where it says change or power management mode, select, and you can choose your graphics card. Next one down is management of power mode. You can click prefer maximum performance. And then I like to come down very much to the bottom. You just want to make sure that VSync is turned off. You don't want VSync turned on, guys. You want to make sure that's off. Again, click apply in this bottom right hand corner. And there we have it. That's our drivers for our graphics card. Really as much as we can do. So we've set our power settings in Windows so that we've got performance or max performance. We've done it in our NVIDIA drivers as well. You should have updated your BIOS. You've updated your chipset drivers. You've gone through, checked, or you've got all your drivers installed. And a good way to do that is if you go down to the Windows settings and you right click and you go to Device Manager, that will open up and you will see up here that we're still waiting for our LAN controllers to be updated. We've got a couple of exclamation marks here where we've got unknown devices where we need to update those drivers. So I know what they are. They're the Intel LAN drivers and Wi-Fi drivers that we've not updated as of yet. But essentially, you want to make sure that you've got none of these exclamation marks here, and your system should be good to go. Once you've done all that, you're nearly there, but not quite. What we want to do is we want to come out of here. We want to restart the system. So power, restart. We want to be watching the screen at this point. Okay, because what we're looking to do is press F1, F2 or delete, and we want to go back into the BIOS. There we go. Right, we're back in the BIOS, back where we started, guys. So only really a couple of things that you need to do in here. If you don't have a fan controller and you've got all your fans connected to your PWM headers on your motherboard, you can come in here and you can change your fan settings and your fan curves dependent on what you want. Second and most important thing, now that we've got Windows installed, it's all stable and we've got everything updated, we want to make the most of the RAM that we've got installed. Biggest thing that I see is people go out and buy 6000 megahertz RAM, and as standard it's running at 4800 or 5200 megahertz. You're not getting what you paid for. RAM is a massive impactor on FPS, so make sure that you apply either XMP or AMD Expo. Very, very easy. You come in, you can select memory, and as you can see here, our memory, we've got 2 sticks of 16 gigs, which are here, and at the minute, it's running at 4800 megahertz. If we turned on AMD Expo, it would run at 6000 megahertz. Okay, so all we've got to do is click Profile 1, which is at the top, AMD Expo, and it's going to change from 4800 to 6000. If that's all you want to do, you can press F10, press enter, and it's going to take us back into Windows. It may take a little bit more of a longer boot time, guys, because the memory timings are going to change on the RAM. So 7000 series CPUs and the latest Intel chips, it does take a longer boot cycle the first time that you either turn your PC on or you change any BIOS settings. Now you're back in Windows, you can press Control, Alt and Delete all together. It'll take you into the Task Manager, and in here you can check out your GPU, your CPU, your RAM and so on and so forth. It's a good idea to make sure that you check the settings that you've just changed to make sure they've been applied and to make sure that you've got no issues. Now, for any reason that you applied AMD Expo or XMP and your system failed to boot, do not fret. You might just have a blank screen. All you've got to do is one of two things. Turn your system off and go back into the BIOS, or check your debug indicators, and if there's a DRAM light or a CPU light, what you need to do, guys, is take out your CMOS battery, leave it for about 10 seconds and pop it back in and restart your system. It will reset the BIOS settings to the default values and everything should be fine 99% of the time. So we've downloaded our BIOS, we've updated our chipset drivers, we've updated our graphics card drivers, we've changed our power management mode in Windows, we've gone through. There's a couple of other things you want to change. Make sure that you've got your cursor settings to no drift and no mouse acceleration and things like that, but they're all basic things. You're now at a point where you can download Steam or whatever you want to download in terms of game player and start downloading them games without the threat of, is it going to be actually performing as good as it should do for as much money as I spent on it? Make sure that you do change your monitor settings because that's the biggest thing, an XMP. Guys, I'm hoping that's giving you a brief overview of the basic changes that I do when I've made a new computer or built a new system to get it to where you'll be happy with it as well. If you have, smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in a new one.